All right. Well, we got a little off track there. Little interruption in the podcast, but we're back. We're new to this. We're new to this, folks. I think I'm going to pick up where we left off here. Participants who did not bid. Participants who did not participate will be entered into a draft pool where the remaining horses will be up for selection. Again, we're kind of banking on that. Not everybody is going to have, um, the opportunity to be at the auction, which is fine. Some people might be working, some people might have other stuff going on. If you are not able to bid in the auction that night and there are still horses left over, you will be put into a draft pool where the remaining horses will be up for selection. Minimum entry fee is still required, of course. And we do have a set draft pool order, set as in we do know the curriculum for what the order is going to be. No, we're not going to pull names out of a hat. We know what we're going to do. We cannot classify that to participants because that may alter people's decisions in bidding or not in the auction. If an owner ends up winning two horses, the next person in line with a bid that does not have a horse gets him for that bid. So essentially, if you're bidding on three or four horses, and you didn't end up getting one, you still kind of have some insurance there, knowing that, oh, hey, if I don't end up with one, I've got bids on other horses. If somebody ends up owning two at the end of the race, I'm next in line to get that horse for the bid that I put on him. And it did happen in our trial run. Somebody ended up with two horses. And then we kind of walked through that, and we thought that would be the best scenario or outcome in that scenario. And then we threw in a little last place here, in the Derby here. If you are unlucky enough to have your horse placed dead last, you must take 3 shots of liquor voted on by the council. That'll be a little fun little throw in there. If that person is capable of drinking anymore, you will be, because you got last place, and that's only fair. um, so that's kind of what we've got down for the rulings right now. Um, and neither here or there. We're gonna do our best to kind of work through it and maybe run another trial or two to make sure we have everything figured out, every scenario that can come of this. We think we have a pretty good base right now. So thanks to Derby Council members for working through that with me. Right now, I am searching up for our Kentucky Derby um, past seasons and all of our documentation here, to kind of bring first and foremost all the statistics we have on everybody so we can go through some Derby profiles. And I figured it would be pretty fun to kind of look back um, on the past and see if we have anything fun to poke at here, with there being, whoo, 20 of us, 26 of us that have ran in the past. So give me a second here while I try to find that. I don't know why I can't find the document. There it is. There she is. All right. So who should we start off with? I've got 26 names here. I've got um a bunch of statistics and just a lot of fun history here. I think it's probably only right to start off with the only three people who have been at every single 7 year history of the Kentucky Derby. And let's start off with none other than Alex Wheeler. Alex Wiener Alex Wheeler, rather. Sorry, Al. Has two first place finishes and a second place finish. So you can bet your bottom dollar that Alex Wheeler is going to be in the running every single year. And over the year, we have seen Alex Wheeler and Bob Baffert, the trainer, team up in multiple circumstances. Him and Bob Baffert won a couple years ago with the late Medina Spirit. And I think that's kind of where the Bob Baffert Alex Wheeler bond really took off. They've been partners for a couple years in the Derby. Last year again with Citizen Bowl, Alex had a top 3 pick and took the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Champion with that number 3 pick. Citizen Bowl ended up running 15th or somewhere along those lines. So not the home run Baffert and Wheeler were looking for. Um, But rest assured, in 7 finishing with a 5.7 average finish over 7 years, which is believed, let me look here, ranked 7th all time out of 26. So having a 7-year history and finishing pretty much 5th place every single time at least, that's a um, pretty good average. He dropped 1.6 points last year with the Citizen Bull Run. So before that, he was up in 4th place. So hats off to him for being a two-time champ and being him and staying true to his connection with Bob Baffert. As it looks now, Baffert doesn't have a lot of top contenders with Brandt losing yesterday in the San Felipe. I thought Alex Wheeler might hook up there with Baffert again and take Brandt early on if he in the auction. But we'll see where Alex's head is at come auction day. So good for Alex. Can't wait to have him back this year. He's always a life of partying. Good to have around. Let's turn to Seth Bloomquist. A very interesting kind of measure here. He's kind of like Alex in the sense of that he always just kind of hangs around. He is also himself a two-time champion in 7 years, and he finishes with an average of 7.1, 7th place, which isn't as high as Al. I mean, Seth has been very consistent. And when I mean very consistent, I mean it. He's gotten first twice, he's gotten ninth twice, he's gotten eighth twice, and then last year he got 14th. So hopefully, if that trend continues, at least for Seth's circumstance, he won't finish 14th this year to double up 3 times with finish history. Going back, I think Seth was one of our first champions. I know we won with Authentic, and that was a Bob Baffert horse. So Alex missed out on that one. Seth stole Authentic and Bob Baffert's connection from him there in 2020. And then off the top of my head, it was Mystic Dan 2 years ago with Seth, and that was probably one of the most improbable victories as Sierra Leone was barreling down the lane in that one, and Alex Wheeler was in the running for that one as well. I think that might have been the one where Alex Wheeler finished second. Seth took first place with Sierra Leone and Mystic Dan. Mystic Dan just opened up a good lead. Sierra Leone and Alex couldn't run him down. It was by about a nose hair. But Seth has had a very good culture. He's shown up every year. He's done a great job. His horses usually always run well, and he'll either by the looks of it, he's either finishing first or 10th. That's about it for Seth. There's no in between yet. But hats off to him for having a good culture over there. And then just, sometimes he's just in it for the fun and sometimes he's in it to win. And there's a good balance there for him, I think. So hats off to Seth. We'll see you around this year, buddy, for number 8. And then the last and third barn who has been in the Kentucky Derby for all 7 years is myself. And I would like to think that my barn and my stable has the most well-rounded thoroughbreds in the league. I mean, I've just got top names that have just been contenders and great and going to go on to be great sires. With two second place finishes and 2 third place finishes. Just haven't gotten to the top of the mountain, but damn it, we've been close. Um, you think back to the my welcome to the Derby moment with War of Will and Colton Zambori and Maximum Security when Colton won it for about a minute and a half, and then they took it away from him for DQ for cutting off War of Will, who had a clear lane and had a full head of steam, mind you. So if that didn't happen, we might be talking a little bit differently about my stable. But then, of course, journalism I've got in there, one of the best horse racers out there right now. Angel of Empire was a great runner, won the Arkansas Derby, ran hard, just got beat out by Mage that year in the wheat stable. I've had Fierceness, obviously. Fierceness did not run a great Kentucky Derby, but that was about the only race that he didn't show up for. He ran well in the Breeders' Cup Classic a couple months ago. He's very well horse. Him and Sierra Leone are both at Coolmire right now studying, so congrats on the retirement to those two big boys. But yeah, I mean, Midnight Bourbon ran well. He was kind of middle of the pack, and then we've had some horses that dropped the ball as well. But just great. We show up every year. We show up where we know how to run. We know what it takes. And we are second place all time in average finish, and we finish an average of fifth place every single year. And that's second, not only to the first place and one-time runner Sean Hogg Nybloom, who has an average finish of fourth place with Final Gambit last year. If Sean can do that for 6 more years, if he can finish fourth place 6 more years, kind of like I have, I'll give it to him. But until then, I'm going to take my stable over the one Final Gambit, and I'm going to take my stable over anybody. We've just got top echelon horses in there, and we look to build on our culture and go into this auction knowing that, hey, we kind of control the tables here. Let's go get who we want and let him run. That's what we're going to do this year. So um, happy to be back. Let's get into the next racer. Let's get into Cash Money Honey Limited Liability Company LLC. Braden Lavka, 6-year runner. He's had a very good history as well in 6 years. He's had one top two finish. I believe that was two fills the year um, that Mage won the Kentucky Derby. Two fills ran his butt off for HB, and that was as closest as he's got. East Avenue didn't put up. Well, you know what? East Avenue ran well last year. He had a good trip. Just wasn't there at the top. There was a lot of good horses last year, and East Avenue just didn't have enough. But average finish of 5.5 in 6 years for HB, and that, if I'm not mistaken, is good enough for top five all time. And really hasn't had a dud. I mean, the average or the finishes he's had in 6 years is 8, 4, 7, 7, 2, and 5. This might be the only at least minimum 5-time starter who hasn't dropped out of the top 8 in 6 years. I mean, that's pretty incredible. I mean, some might say mediocre, but to show up every single year and finish in the top 8 every time, that's not bad. In the money only once, but regardless, I mean, you've established yourself for sure. You've got a good culture. You know what you're doing in there, and we'll see if they can build on it. Let's go down to you know what? Let's go down to another 6-time runner. Why don't we? Let's go to Zambori Stables. Colton Zambori, who always seems to be in the headlines. He's got an interesting record, to say the least. Highlighted in red here is the only racer in Kentucky Derby history to be disqualified. He did win that race by technicality. Colton's got finishes of 4, 9, 5, 11, 10, and 7 in 6 years. Obviously, that disqualification gets thrown in there as well. But Colton Zambori, I mean, he's been in and out of the headlines for years. And I just can't fathom why he's always doing something crazy. I mean, last year he was seen in Mexico illegally running horses after his birthday. I mean, he's got all kinds of stuff going on at his stable, but props to him for having fun with it. He finishes on average of 7.6, which puts him at 15th all time, which is, I know he doesn't want to be that low, especially without a win. But that's where he finds himself right now. Um, we just haven't seen that marquee culture staple. Here I am run from Zambori yet. We've had it with people who haven't necessarily won. If you get a good second, a good third, you're like, yeah, you know what? I was there and you guys are going to remember me. We just haven't had that yet from the Zambori stables. And I think this year it might flip the tables because, like I said, it's an auction, it's wide open. Whoever you pick, it's not like you didn't have the opportunity to go get the winner, unlike past seasons. Last year in the draft, Sovereignty went number 4 overall. He won the Kentucky Derby. Okay. People below the 4th pick technically didn't have a shot in getting him. This year, the auction brings in a new aspect, new systems, new ideas. You can go and get anybody. If you do the work and you know which horse you're picking, you can get the winner. And I bet your ass it's gonna feel a lot better winning an auction and then winning the Kentucky Derby because you bought that horse out of everybody that had the option to. So I think this year it's gonna be a little bit more fun. It's gonna be a great time, but yeah. So I think Zambori Stables would be one of the teams to take advantage of that potentially. So we'll see. Let's get into we can't leave out Wheat Stable. Let's get into Wheat Stable, and boy, before last year, this was a dynasty, or at least the makings of one, because Wheat Stable, it's kind of been in and out of it the last couple of years. He's raced 6 times out of 7. Last year, he was a little late to the party. Had commitments after the Derby, so couldn't really take the full echelon of what makes the Derby so great, but before that, I mean, he's shown up and he's gotten first place, second place, second place, second place, and sixth place, and then last year 18th. But if you take out that 18th, the Wheat Stable was number one all time with an average finish of 2.6. 2.6 in 5 years is unheard of. You don't finish second place in the Derby on average in 6 years. It just doesn't happen. But Wheat Stable found a way to do it somehow and at least got that one championship with Mage a couple of years ago that outran a good field. And that was probably the most improbable win for the Wheat Stable because Mage was picked eighth or something along those lines. Um, so obviously knows who to pick or what to pick. Yeah, I think Wheats had the 18th pick last year, so really drew the short end of the stick on that one. Not much you can really do with that if that's how it falls in your favor. But again, that's why we're doing the auction this year. That's what makes this year so special. So yeah, the culture there is, I mean, all they do is win. I mean, they could easily have 4 Derby championships, which would be over half of what we've handed out. First and 3 seconds and a sixth. I mean, hats off. I don't know how you pull that off, especially with the Derby. I mean, you just never know what the heck's going to happen out there. Um, so hats off to the Wheat Stable. I mean, what more can you say? Let's get into another 6-time runner. We're just going off the top here. We're going everybody that's been there the past 7 and 6 years. So we're gonna dive into another 6-time runner, and that would be Juke Ninus. And well, to say the least, Juke has had a tough go at the Derby. He's been there 6 out of 7 years, and to put it lightly, he's there, but he's not. Juke's there. He's there for a good couple of games of darts, and then things start to get good, things start to get funny, things start to get weird. The music gets louder, the Derby gets closer, and Juke sometimes just disappears. We've had times in the past, most recently, Juke the last 2 years has gotten picked up by the old lady. And so Juke hasn't made the race technically in the last couple of years, but he's been there in spirit. And what I mean by spirit, when you're not there cheering on your horse um, sometimes just doesn't want to run. Horses need, that motivation. They need everything behind them. You can't just put a horse out there and not be there to cheer him on. It's like a fourth grade basketball kid. If they don't see their parents in the stand, they're gonna be bummed out and they might be in their own head. It's the same thing for horses. So if Juke's there, his horses are probably gonna run hard. If he's not, you know, history be told. The last 3 years, Juke has gotten 13th, 14th, and 12th with an average finish of 8.8. And that, my friends, is 19th all time out of 26. So we're going to need to see Juke put more into this. He's going to have to pour his energy, his life into this Derby, especially with it being the auction. He is going to have to dig deep and find a way because it has not been what it needed to be the last couple of years, and I think he knows that. So look for that team to take a big leap this year, potentially. Fingers crossed for him. I wish him good luck, though. Damn right I do. Who do we want to get into next? All right, I think we've got 7 and 6 year racers out of the way, so let's dig into the 5-time racers, and that would be none other than Mr. TK Tanner Kettela. Um, kind of a hard one to read. He does have a Kentucky Derby championship. Um, a great run by Epicenter many years ago. And Tanner kind of stole that one. That year we had a horse finish first place that didn't have an owner, so technically Tanner won by technicality. But that counts in our book, so Tanner's a champ. Um, Finishes with five, first, 12th, third, and 19th with an average finish of eighth. That will put him 16th all time. And, if you have a championship and you're 16th all time, something about that just doesn't necessarily line up with me. Um, I don't know if that's a psychology thing. I don't know if the head is focused. I just don't know if there's stability there. But nonetheless, like I said, he's got a championship with Epicenter. Epicenter is retired now. I think he's at Kumar as well, somewhere down in Kentucky, just pounding out sires and offsprings. And we'll see if Epicenter can turn out any good 3-year-olds this year. But nonetheless, Tanner has a championship, and a lot of us don't. So there's not much we can say about that other than the consistency just hasn't been there. But if it is, um, maybe it might be a culture swinger for TK. So good luck to them, and hope to see him back this year again. I believe the odds are good of that. I think he's the only 5-time runner. Let's get into the multiple 4-time runners that we have. Let's start off with Hammered Horse Stables and Vinny. Um, Vinny is on the Derby Council. He puts in great efforts every year, and honestly, his finishes don't look too bad. 6, 5, third, and 12th. Obviously, that 12th is kind of a sore eye there, but 6, 5, and 3, there is nothing wrong with that at all. I know he had Just Steel one year. He didn't run a great race, but I think that was just a tough go. I think he had the 11th pick that year and finished 12th place. So really, not much you can complain about that. If you have a bottom 10 pick and you finish high bottom tens, you kind of just have to tip your hat and say, yeah, you know what? We did all right. But the 6, 5, and 3, not bad. I know Smile Happy was one of Vinny's horses back then. And then Baeza last year came out of nowhere. The last horse entered into the race, taking number 2 overall. Vinny really liked that Baeza horse, as a lot of us did going into the Derby last year. Drew that 20th spot in the gate, but albeit, man, ran a good race. Kind of just got caught in the pack there as we entered the turn, and Baeza was really nowhere to be found until the last 150 yards. And then he turned it on. And if you would have given us another 100 yards of the race, Baeza very well may have won that race against Sovereignty. Definitely would have edged out Journalism, but did finish third. So a good run there. Vinny did have a couple of years ago the unfortunate circumstance of when Forte scratched. Forte was the number 1 overall pick by Vinny, Hammered Horse Stables. Undefeated horse going into the race as the for sure favorite, and honestly probably would have won it. So that goes back to um our auction and our rulings. That's why it's important to know if a horse scratches the morning of, like Forte did, we need to have insurance policy. We need to have backup plans because that's just not fair. But other than that, Hammered Horse Stables has shown up every year, and boy, does he have a lot of fun doing it. He's invested every single year, which we like to see. We don't see a whole lot of action, in the horse racing world group chat up until kind of that April mark. But Hammered Horse Stables is invested pretty much around the clock year round. So hoping for a good finish for him. He's done a lot of work with the council over the last couple of years to make this event so special and part of the reason why it's so great. So we appreciate Hammered Horse Stables and all their work towards the Derby. And damn sure excited to see him back this year. Let's scramble over to what do we got here? What do we got? Who do we want to pick on next? Let's go to somebody more new. We're kind of down towards the 1-time runners, the 2-time runners, the 3-time runners. So we're gonna make it interesting, and we're gonna kind of talk about the two in the same sense here because their races were very similar last year. Let's go to 2 rookies and let's talk about Calhoun 12 Racing. Um, Newcomer last year, kind of didn't have a shot. Had, I believe, either the 19th or the 20th pick. You're a rookie. It just kind of happens sometimes that way when you've got pristine racers in their seventh, sixth year. Just in a group of veterans. But boy, I can't believe what we saw. Um, and Calhoun was new to horse racing last year. Necessarily never went to Canterbury, never really watched horse racing on TV. Maybe the Kentucky Derby a time or two here and there. But Calhoun was just very new to the scene, very new to the culture and kind of how things work. And boy, with that 19th pick, that horse, it was Neo Equos, a Florida horse. Calhoun picked Nia Equos, and I'll be damned, man. Nia Equos turned that corner and he took over Citizen Bull, and he was heading home on a full steam ahead. And I think Calhoun got a little bit too excited there, and boy, oh boy, he thought he was going to win that Derby as a rookie. And would that have ever been one of the upsets of all time? Calhoun winning the Kentucky Derby with the 19th pick in his rookie year. Would there have been a better story? I don't know if there would have been. Um, but Neo Equos ran his butt off. Calhoun was yelling his ass off. It's what you want to see from a young, passionate racing fan. And hopefully it hooked him because I think he's going to be here to stay. But I'll be damned, man. Calhoun, Neo Equos racing. Calhoun 12's racing ran their ass off last year. Finished 13th, but they turned that corner and they had first place, man. And that taste of victory is what keeps you going. Just a taste of it is what keeps you invested. And that's why I'm so excited to see where Calhoun 12 Racing goes this year. It could go anywhere. We'll see. Will he be all in? Will he be kind of middle of the pack? We'll see. That's up to him to decide. The next one I want to turn to is Cooper Nelson. Kind of a life that's just, how do we put it? I mean, Cooper just lives the life of a partier, and I think that I think that dipped into his horse racing a little bit last year. Um, because similar to Calhoun, Cooper came in as a rookie. I mean, definitely a rookie in the Kentucky Derby aspects, but definitely no rookie in knowing how to have a good time. I can tell you that much. And boy, when there's an event that Cooper can scream at, you bet your ass he's gonna be screaming. He's already registered for the auction this year. Cooper's dialed in. And you know what makes last year even so much better? Cooper picked Owen Almighty, a horse that everybody thought would be finishing last. I think Cooper had the 20th pick. He had the dead last pick. But Cooper showed up anyway, wore the name loud and proud, was in the front part, the top 5 or 6 horses the entire race, overtook Neo Equos and Calhoun down the stretch, and had the lead for a couple hundred yards before the finish line until, of course, journalism, sovereignty, and Baeza overtook him. But for Owen Almighty and Cooper to run a race like that last year, I mean, you just you can't paint a better picture other than winning, of course, but you can't paint a better picture of a rookie horse with the 20th pick, a rookie barn showing up and running like that. I mean, that's momentum you build on. You build upon that momentum. That's something you can't let go to waste. When it's almost like a March Madness UC Irvine, beating Duke number 1 overall in the first round. It was that type of feel. And I just think Cooper's going to build on all of that going forward. And I can't wait to see what he does this year cuz Cooper is one of those wild cards. We'll get into um, the auction and all that in a bit, but Cooper is gonna he like I said, he could go all out or he could go bare minimum. We don't know. That is what's so great about this auction and this event this year. So I can't wait. A couple more I want to shout out. We won't get into the depths of it. Um, Sean Hogg showed up last year, another first time rookie runner, finished fourth. Great run by Final Gambit. He didn't have a high pick either. So good culture swing there for him. And I'd like to welcome back Simpsons Ranch. A couple years ago, Simpsons Ranch had a tough go in the Derby. He had the number 1 hole with Dornock there. Ended up running 8th. Um, had a tough day. had a tough day, but and he took a sabbatical year, took a gap year, but from all likelihood, it sounds like the Simpsons Ranch is going to be entering their name back into the Kentucky Derby pool. And watch out. That's all I'm going to say. If Simpsons Ranch is there, some fun stuff is going to be going down. So shout out to him for bringing a good time. Can't leave out the champion from last year. Gonna go quick with these next couple shout outs. Reed Kornovich, champion last year, kind of all over the board in the 4 year racing history for him, but got that crown last year with arguably one of the greatest horses in the last 10 years or so. Sovereignty, just a ruling horse. Little bit of concerns with his health as he's scratched from a couple races this year, the Breeders' Cup Classic being one of them. But looking for Sovereignty and Kornovich to have a good 4 year old season. I think that will do it for now. I could keep going on. The Twins just haven't had a great run either year they've been in it. They're going into their junior year here, finishing 8.5 place and 10th place on average. Looking for them to take another step, and hopefully build on what they've kind of put in here the last couple of years. So looking for them to take a step. Not going to leave out Max here, Andrews, another member of our Derby Council, 4th, 10th, and 17th, average finish of 10th. Still looking to move up there. Had a good run with Catching Freedom a couple years ago. Just didn't have all of it there. But that's kind of the gist of almost everybody. Sorry if I missed you and if you're still listening. But before we wrap up here, I kind of want to get into a little bit of what we're kind of anticipating for the Derby. Are we gonna see people spending $500? Are we going to see people spending $50? We don't really know what we're kind of in for as far as this auction. It's the first year of the auction. $40 minimum bid. We just don't really know what the hell is going to happen in that auction. Could we see Alex Wheeler spend $600 on a horse? Yeah, I think we could. Could we see Alex spending $80 on a horse and settling for, maybe a mid-tier, mid-pack horse? I think maybe. But if there's one thing we've learned over the years, Alex Wheeler likes to have the horse at the front of the race. Citizen Bull, Medina Spirit, Alex Wheeler has done it that way for years. He wants his horse up at the lead all race wire to wire. That's how Alex Wheeler runs his horses. That's his stable. Will he change it up this year after last year finishing his worst 15th place? He might change it up, but based on statistical theory, Alex Wheeler likes having his horses at the front of the race. He just does. Parks Thoroughbreds, obviously they're a big player. They've been in the Derby for 7 years, haven't gotten that championship, have tasted it 4 times, finishing in the top 3, finishing in the money 4 times out of 7, but haven't gotten that number one horse. Thought they had it last year. Hopefully can get it this year, but everything's going to be different. HB, Cash Money Honey, Stables, they could be a big player in the auction. Wheats could be, well, you know what? If I had to bet on it, unless Wheats wants to go for the Grand Slam and really just establishing his dynasty, I could see him being a big player. If not, I could see him laying a little bit low. Seth, complete wild card. Again, we have a lot of those. Cooper, complete wild card. Vinny, I think, will be a big time spender in the auction. Zambori, I could see being a big time spender in the auction. Jay, Cooper, Sean, Calhoun, all kind of wild cards in my eyes as well. Jared and Jordan, I would have to guess on the lower end unless one of them was just all in this year. I know they got a big contract from Anytime Fitness, or at least one of them, two of them. I don't know. Could see them being a big spender here with that Anytime Fitness sponsor. We'll see if they allow them to go all in. Max, I see a little bit on the lower side. Tanner, probably a little bit lower. Juke, oh, I don't know. Juke could be a wild card too. I could see him going 3 digits. I could see him spending 100 plus. We just don't know how this auction is going to go. That's what's so great about it. But I think I think this first auction, everybody's going to be kind of learning about it, and how it kind of works. So I think early on we're going to be just kind of throwing out feelers. Um, we just don't know. We just don't know how it's going to go. But I think after this auction is over, I think everybody's going to kind of see, okay, who's all in, who's playing it casual, who's trying to go for the big upset. But that's what's going to be so great about it. And it's put up or shut up. It's risk and reward. If you put $500 down on Paladin, um, and he wins, then so be it. You won, and you spent that much money because you knew damn sure he was gonna win. It's all about taking shots and making the calls. Anybody could win this thing, and this auction is just gonna be a great way of demonstrating that. But you could also get a minimum dollar like Everett. Everett technically has never ran in the Kentucky Derby before, but Everett could be spending $40 and saying I don't give a shit, and then win. And then say we had a $500 player and they lost, and they're half the pot. Everett's going to win that on a $40 bid. You know what I mean? That's just what makes this so great, and what's going to make it so fun. Damn, I'm excited. I'm gonna give one more shout out to hopefully first time Kentucky Derby runner, Evan Gustafson. We're gonna see Gustafson Stables, Gustafson Maple Stables. That is, my apologies. Hopefully he shows up. I think he could be a key component in this auction. Obviously a blackjack dealer knows how numbers work, knows how odds work. And he's pretty much a bookie himself. So him getting thrown into the mix of all these veterans, I think Gustafson Maple Stables is gonna be like, I'm here and I'm not scared of any of you, and I'm gonna fuck with you in this auction because I can. I think that's the attitude that he's gonna go in with, and I'm a little nervous for it, mind you, because Parks Thoroughbreds thought they were gonna control this entire thing. They thought they were gonna be like, I'm fucking with you. I'm fucking with you. Cash money, honey. I'm gonna up you just because I fucking feel like it. But now that Gustafson Maple Stables might be in the damn Derby in the auction, nobody knows what the hell's gonna happen. Um, just want to give another shout out to all of our past participants: Logan McNulty, Mike Lilia, Lane Asperheim, Daniel Gilchrist, Dawson Sample 1 year, Tony, of course, Saul, a four-time runner, hasn't shown up in about 4 years, but Saul's a four-time Derby runner. Blaze is in there, Lake Doran is in there, and I believe that's all 26. And then obviously Everett and Gustafson. I just can't wait. Um, and then to tip the cap to end this all off, I want to bring attention to our winners circle, for people who have won Triple Crown races and the Breeders' Cup Classic. So I'm gonna go through that list here before we head out here, and just tip the cap, give credit where it's due. We've got Seth Bloomquist, two-time Derby champion, one-time Breeders' Cup Classic champion. Um, Obviously the double double with Authentic. Authentic won the Derby and the Breeders' Cup in the same year. Just a home run there. Alex Wheeler, two-time Derby champ, one-time Breeders' Cup Classic champ. Um, so him and Seth are kind of who everybody is chasing in the realms of having champions. Drake Wheats, one-time KY Derby winner, one-time Belmont Stakes winner. I don't remember who got the Belmont for him. It might have been Tiz the Law. Um, I don't think it was Mage. I don't remember who it was, but um, he's got two Triple Crown races under his belt. Parks Thoroughbreds has two Preakness Stakes championships. One of them being War of Will back in 2019, I believe, and then with journalism this past year. And the only Kentucky Derby participant to win the Preakness Stakes is Parks Thoroughbreds, and he has two of them. Juke Ninus with a Belmont win. Jay Simpson, the one-time runner, won the Belmont with Dornoch. Reed has one Derby, one Belmont, both with Sovereignty last year. Before that was routed every year, goose egged. Tanner with a Derby, and Logan McNulty kind of spawning in here, has the ever coveted one Breeders' Cup Classic Championship with White Abario back in the day. So that'll do it for this first and maybe only Kentucky Derby 2026 podcast. Um, I can't wait to get things going. I'm excited to see all of you guys again, and let's just have a great Derby, shall we? Cheers.